Well,
Yeah, because he can sing. Then again, I've always said this, week in, week out, I am tone deaf. But yeah, that's a very catchy song, Stitches, by Shawn Mendes. Now, moving on to our second guest. Shankar Santhiram is the managing consultant of EQTD Consulting, a specialist management training and executive leadership coaching consulting firm. Shankar will soon be publishing a book titled Good People, Better Leaders, and we have with him in the studio today to talk about what makes for good leadership and how you could apply those principles to your own life. Today, we continue our discussion with what keeps us from being properly focused. Shankar, it's been an absolute pleasure this year, 2015, having you in the studio.
That's right.
We're going to end it with a bang, at least for Mila.
It's been, yeah, it's a seventh episode, actually. Quite fun.
It is.
My last Tuesdays of the month are full because I'm here with both of you, sometimes with others.
now we're continuing on with your Good People, Better Leader series. And today we're focusing on your fourth driver, which is developing an unyielding attitude. Now, can you tell us why this is part of your series?
The first driver was getting connected with your goals, making sure that you understand your goals. Second was how to develop a sense of belief. The third was creating a high-performance culture for yourself. These are the foundation and tools for the Good People, Better Leader series. If you want to be a good leader, you've first got to become a good person. In order for you to be a good person, you need to understand these things, these three things. Now, the fourth component, it focuses on what happens when you hit roadblocks and snags. What happens when you have developed self-belief, when you understand what your goals are, and you have endeavored to create high-performance culture around the way you live, and then you face difficulties and you face problems. I think all of us have to come to the conclusion that nothing ever happens the way you want it to happen.
Yeah.
You know, life throws you a series of curveballs. Sometimes things look very, very clear, and then you go around the bend, and suddenly there's a huge boulder in front of you, and you go like, holy mother of God, what do I do now? You know what I mean? It's that you have these moments in life, right? And developing an unyielding attitude focuses on us learning how to overcome problems, how to embrace problems in some ways.
Yeah.
A lot of it is to do with the fact that you need to accept from the start that no matter what I do, I'm going to face difficulty. If I decide to take a new job, which is all exciting and fantastic because I'm going to be on television, for example, as an anchor or a host. It's very glamorous, very nice, but that comes with a whole host of problems, from preparing to fluffing your lines to being judged to being told that you're not good enough, and then having your own self-esteem questioned. Being pushed around by people that you may or may not respect along the way, So these are all things that we have to come to terms with. And developing an unyielding attitude is when you understand from the onset that these are all going to be problems, and you take steps to overcome them.
Yeah, but Shankar, you make it sound so easy, but how does one go about, developing that unyielding factor in yourself?
First thing, as I said, is to understand that failure is real. That, failure is real. And most of us are taught from a very young age not to fail. Right? Our examinations, our schooling method in this country and all traditional forms of schooling focuses on examination-based education. So which means you go to school for X number of weeks in a year, and you're examined periodically. Once a month, once every 6 months, and then every 4 or 5 years you have what are national examinations, which is the biggest humiliation that any kid can go through, because your neighbor is not necessarily bright, but studious, which is completely different from being naturally bright, or someone who is exuberant and someone who is good at what they do, or someone who's self-aware. Just a kid who can sit for hours and hours and hours and read and regurgitate will do much better than you, and that messes your own self-esteem up completely, because you just think, like, this idiot next door to me is doing much better than me. How's that possible? And I think because we are brought up not to give ourselves room for failure, especially in our culture, failure is almost not an option, right? That's the problem. So I think the first step is understanding that failure is a possibility in every part of your life, and our attitude towards failure is very important. Remember that blind faith doesn't get you out of any problem, or just good attitude.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, have a good attitude in life and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Actually, it's good attitude coupled with persistence that gets you out of trouble all the time. And it's that persistence, that unyielding persistence is what we need in order for us to become successful. In 2013, just a couple of years ago, Bloomberg came up with did a study. And the study said that 8 out of 10 businesses, which is 80% of businesses, will fail in the first 18 months.
Yeah.
That's almost a stat. But if you ask any business owner, any new business owner, anyone who wants an idea, I was sitting last night with a friend who came to see me for some advice on business, and a fantastic idea. And I just kept asking him, okay, what's the failure strategy here? And he kept telling me, what are you talking about? What do you mean failure strategy?
Yeah.
I said, no, what's the failure strategy meaning? If things don't go right in the first 3 months or 6 months or 8 months or 10 months, what's the plan?
Yeah.
And he had not thought about it at all. All he focused was on making his business work, which is how we're programmed to think.
Yeah.
When you get married, you never think this might end up in divorce.
Yes.
No.
Correct.
You don't sit back and go like, this, I love her or him deeply, and I'm going to commit myself for the rest of my life to this guy. And it's all there. You are in that. You're vibrating in that sphere, right? Now,
You're almost disillusioned to a certain extent.
yeah, you
Or
are.
denial.
Yeah, I mean, those are strong words.
Yes.
Disillusion and denial. You're in denial about being in love with your wife or your partner. But, I do agree with that. I'm going to speak to your wife about this. I'll have a chat with her the next time I see her. But it's about the fact that you don't project that this is not going to work. You don't even think that this is not going to work. You are 100% sure.
Yeah.
If there was 110%, which is mathematically not possible, people always use that word. If it's 110% possible that you are sure that this marriage is going to work, you are sure.
Yeah.
At the time. You do not sit back and think what might happen, which is the reason why we don't make provisions for financial kind of breakups, for all those kinds of things. So I think you need to embrace failure. That's the first thing. And just one last thing. I am where I am today because of some of the most spectacular failures that I've actually faced in life. Having to, I do leadership coaching, I do business coaching. I'm involved in corporate training and management consulting right now. I can do that only because of my failures.
You learn from
To be
your
honest,
mistakes.
Yes,
because
of
if it was
course.
all smooth sailing, I'll just walk in and go like, whoa, man, why can't you do this?
Yeah.
And we can't wait to hear more about that, but we're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back to VBuzz. You're here with me, Sharita and Roshan, and we are speaking to Shankar Santhiram. And before we left for the break, Shankar, we were speaking about welcoming failure as opposed to, being afraid of failure or, letting it affect you negatively.
Yeah.
How do we learn from our failures?
Well, can I read something out here?
Yes, please, please do.
This is very, very interesting, right? Eventually, we must all come to a decision for ourselves about what represents failure.
Yeah.
However, the world is very keen to put failure on a schedule and give you a set of decisive factors if you allow it. A meager 7 years following my graduation, failure had hit me on a grand scale. A fleeting marriage was dissolved. I had no job, a single parent, and as destitute as anyone could possibly be without living on the streets. My parents' fears for me and those I had for myself had finally transpired. And according to the book of failure, I was the biggest. Now I've lifted this quote from J.K. Rowling, when she spoke at the Harvard alumni dinner a few years ago, and she explained to the students who were there about embracing failure. The fact that she took that, she said, as destitute as anyone could be without having to live on the streets, that's me. Marriage gone, life gone, single parent, no money, no nothing. And today we all know her. We know her as one of the most prolific writers and well-known, and obviously with billions in a bank account.
Yeah.
So this is a real story, and there are so many other people who are like this. For example, Henry Ford was bankrupt 4 times before he made it. Thomas Edison, we all know that story. Google almost sold for $1 million about 15, 20 years ago. I mean, seriously, quite, can you imagine? It's a bit like George Lucas right now going like, should I have sold?
Sold by LucasArts, yes.
It's not so much it's not so much, it's not so much welcoming failure, but it's more about embracing failure. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the thing which we need to understand. What do we learn? How do we learn? What do we learn? I don't know what we learn. I mean, how do you learn? Failure can hit us at
anytime.
Well, it can hit you anytime. And usually failure hits you where it hurts. Your ego. primarily your ego, right? So when that kid next door, all right, does slightly better than you by getting that one extra A, it's not that that kid is automatically cleverer than you are or is going to become a hugely successful hit in life later. It's at that point your ego gets deeply bruised. So I think, what do you learn from failure? Remember, your attitude controls your reaction to failure, right? So you can, for example, fear. If you lose at something, you can have two things. One is you can have two reactions. One is you get really upset with yourself and with everyone around, and you wallow in that upset. That means the whole time you sit there and go like, that happened to me, and why did they do that, and that, and the next, you feel tremendous upheaval inside. Or you can switch over and go like, okay, right, I learned from this, and I know what I should do and what I shouldn't do. So I think your mental attitude determines how you learn from failure. Most of us don't actually learn from failure. We lurch from one failure to another, and you find yourself constantly in the same toxic relationships. You find yourself constantly not having enough money. For example, you find yourself constantly hanging out with people who are not good for you. And this is all failure in your life. You move from one relationship to another relationship. You can't hold the relationship down for more than 2. I know men who are like this, who will profess their undying love for someone, declare it on Facebook and say she's the one. And then 3 months later when you see them, they'll go like, actually she was the one 3 months ago. But didn't like the way she acted. I went out with her a few times and she slurps when she's eating her noodles. So that's not wife material
you look for
for
excuses.
me. Because you're not really sure. It's your mental attitude. Failure is never planned. It's almost a constant companion to success. That you have to deal with a certain amount of failure in order for you to be successful. Now, let's take examples of airline disasters. When an airline has a plane that crashes, there's nothing you can do about it, right? It's an act of God. Sometimes you could say that it's computer malfunction, human error. It could be a terror attack, right? How the airline responds to that particular failure shows the mettle, shows the worth, shows the care. For example, a lot of people, when the Air Asia flight 12 months ago from Surabaya to Singapore crashed, and it turns out that there was a mechanical error and all those kinds of things, but Air Asia's initial reaction of dealing with the tragedy was lauded the world over. Newspapers around the world wrote about the fact that Air Asia presented itself really, really very well.
As you should, by the way.
As you should, as opposed to some other airlines that sometimes might make mistakes in presenting themselves. So failure on its own is not bad. How you respond to failure makes all the difference. It's the same. You go to a restaurant and you eat. And for example, if there is a piece of hair in your pizza, what do you do? So restaurants can actually choose to go like, no, that's not from us, that's from you, and okay, whatever, and take that. I'll give you another pizza and charge you for one. Or if a restaurant says, I'm so sorry, we don't want to apportion blame. It's it could be from there, it could be from here, it could be from my waiter. Take it away right away. We apologize most profusely. Can I get you another one? No, I don't feel like eating right now because this has put me off my meal. Then you make sure you take that off the bill. And if you do that, for example, you will find that the customer goes like, these guys are, actually,
you're doing the right thing, and how it should be done.
A little bit of failure there, but they've come back, they've bounced back from their failure.
But Shankar, like you said, you've given us so much examples, but to actually reset yourself and to approach this with an unyielding factor it's quite hard. It's easier said than done. What's the first thing you should do or we should do to make that happen?
Well, reframe in your mind. What is it that you want? Right? So if it's very interesting. During the break, you asked me just now, do you know people who actually enjoy being depressed? I do know people who like that. I know people who actually just want, their entire life is negative. Anything you say, wow, it's a beautiful day. No, it could be better. What a lovely garden. Well, that's not very green there. Dude, what is wrong with you? Why do you find the drama in everything? And there are some people who do that. And let's be honest. Do you like hanging out with people like this? I dislike being with people like this. I stay away from them. there's a difference between an extroverted person, an introverted person, and a depressing person. Introverted people are actually quite nice. They have things to say, they're just not loud.
Yeah.
Like you and I, for example, would be considered, Roshan, extroverted people. So Rita, on the other hand, you might be considered an introverted person. You're not, you're not exuberant, vibrant, jumping up and down, not the Jay Walia type. You know what I mean? Right? All of that, right? So you might be withdrawn, but that doesn't mean that that I don't want to be with you, because you might be silent, might be quiet, but you might be deep and insightful and thoughtful, nice, right? Then there are people who are silent, or people who are very loud, who can be either introverted or extroverted, but just are negative all the time.
It's depressing to be with them.
Reframing in your mind is the first thing you need to do, right? So understand reactions, how you react to feedback given to you. Do you know what I mean? You can immediately, constantly go into a flap and say like, like that, no? Or you can go like, okay, really? Okay, what should I do? How do I make it better? So if you actually have that attitude, it's vibrating at that level, constantly going that, I am not right, I'm far from being right. So I'm happy to actually reconcile. So either you vibrate in a reconciliatory mode, or in a kind of aggressive, antagonistic mode. And people who respond antagonistically all the time find it very hard to reframe. Right? Fair enough. So you need to think about, I want solutions, solution orientation all the time. Even with your own life, you want solutions. You have a problem with your wife, you want solutions. If you have a problem with your boyfriend, you want solutions. You have a problem at work, you want a solution. If you can't work with your producer, for example, you need to find a way of solving it, or find another job.
That's true.
It's as simple as that.
There's always a way out if you look for it.
So it's reframing. Reframing and revise, just recalibrate.
So once you have reframed, and you've recalibrated, then would the next step be to relaunch?
It would be to actually then tell yourself that, embracing. As I said at the beginning, you embrace the failure. You say, okay, this is coming. This is a problem. So I've goofed up, or I've messed up, or circumstances have not worked the way I've wanted them to work. What do I learn from this? I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't do this, right? So if I'm going to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and be completely switched on, I really shouldn't be out later than 1 o'clock, right? So what I'm going to do from tonight onwards is I'm going to remind myself, go to sleep by 11:30 or 12, all right? Start a little earlier, find ways of actually reducing down to, from alpha level to beta level, delta level, so that I can actually go to sleep. I mean, it is as simple as that. And that is why in the old days people asked you to be disciplined. And that, which is not very nice. We all don't like to do that. But you create little structures around yourself on how to make things better for yourself. So that's how you relaunch. Embrace the failure. And once you embrace, learn from that failure, and then launch yourself forward.
All right, Shankar, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing your thoughts.
It's been great, man. This year has been fantastic. Thank you for making my year outstanding by allowing me to be on Viva's. I hope you'll invite me back again. Hopefully.
That will be up to our producer, who goes by the name of April and Sumitra, the powers that be. But thank you for helping us educate ourselves on how to be good people, better leaders.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Coming up on tomorrow's Vibuzz, if better finances is a resolution you'd like to keep for 2016, then you'll want to hear what the Credit and Debt Management Agency has to say about being debt-free.
And national shuttlers Go Jin Wei and Lee Ying Ying chat with us about striving for sporting excellence.
Right, we bring you coverage of the recent TEDx Youth 2015 conference in the latest bus.
And in Motivate Activate, we hear from past studio guest Ronwin Hedgegon, who embarked on a journey of self-development at the tender age of 17.
Yet another 17-year-old like Shawn Mendes with stitches. We do have an email address, vibuzz@astro.com.my. We would love to hear your feedback, your suggestions, and who would you like to see on the show? Bring back Shankar for 2016, hashtag. Also, we do have an Instagram account that's vibuzz_HC. Thank you for following us. My name is Roshan.
And I'm Sharita. Have a good night.